Is being irritable not a personality trait? How to see through emotional habits. Hello. This channel's concept is to introduce various books across genres in an easy-to-understand way to be useful in your life. Also, we provide subtitle data so you can watch even in environments where you cannot make sound. Please note that the subtitle display timing may differ significantly from the audio. Thank you for your understanding in advance. To display subtitles, please turn on the subtitles button on the bottom right of the screen. This time, I will introduce Syunsuke Ando's book, The First Guide to Anger Management Practice to Know and Control Your Anger Type. Mr. Ando serves as the representative director of the General Incorporated Association Japan Anger Management Association and is active as an anger management consultant. He is the leading authority in Japan on anger management, a psychological training method for skillfully dealing with the emotion of anger. In this book, he explains anger, an emotion familiar to us, in a very easy-to-understand manner and shows concrete methods on how to face that emotion. Have you ever heard the saying, there are not 7 habits without, and 48 habits with? We all have various habits, such as twirling a pen, biting our nails, touching a part of our body, or talking to ourselves and having verbal tics. In fact, this book teaches us that our emotions also have habits. An emotional habit means that there are emotions that are easier to choose and those that are not. You could also say that there are emotions you use often and emotions you don't use much. Are you the type who gets angry often? Or are you the type who laughs often or is often sad? Looking around, you see people with various emotional habits. There are people who are always angry, people who are always smiling, people who seem somehow melancholic, people who are always cheerful, and so on. However, the book says that it is not necessarily true that irritable people are inherently born with such a personality. Perhaps, it is just that they are getting angry purely out of habit. Habits that are visible, like pen twirling or nail biting, are easy for the person themselves to notice and for others to point out. However, emotional habits are difficult to see at first glance and are hard for the person themselves to notice. If a person is unconsciously negatively impacting those around them simply because they are not aware of their emotional habits, it is truly a waste. However, fortunately, if you can notice emotional habits, you can correct them. So, how exactly do these emotional habits develop? According to this book, emotional habits are not innate but are acquired during childhood. Children learn by imitating their parents' emotional expressions. For example, if a child is most exposed to the emotion of anger from a young age, that child tends to be more likely to choose anger as an adult. On the other hand, a child who is most exposed to the emotion of joy from a young age will feel that joy is the most easily conveyed emotion when communicating something to others, even as an adult. It's not about whether it's good or bad, but simply that the emotion they were most exposed to becomes the easiest to use. It's a kind of imprinting. It is said that people's emotional habits develop in the home in this way. As a child, when your parents got angry at you, or when you saw your parents getting angry, did you ever think, I won't get angry like that? However, upon becoming an adult yourself, some people may have been shocked to realize that they are getting angry in a way very similar to their parents' anger, which they disliked so much. So, what is the mechanism by which the emotion of anger is generated? This book explains that anger does not exist by itself, there are always other emotions present before anger is felt. For example, imagine there is a cup inside our heart. Every day, we accumulate negative emotions such as painful, difficult, lonely, sad, and anxious in that cup. These emotions are called first emotions. And anger is the emotion that is born when this cup fills up with first emotions and overflows. In other words, anger is a second emotion. Conversely, if there are not many first emotions in the cup, anger will not be generated so easily. If you feel somehow grumpy from the morning, it can be said that it's because the cup is already full of first emotions from the morning. It is not an exaggeration to say that people who are basically angry because they want their first emotions to be understood. Knowing this mechanism of anger is also useful for getting along well with angry people. For example, the cup in the heart of someone who is complaining is often filled with first emotions like I am not valued or I am being neglected. When facing someone who is angry, it is important to focus on the first emotions they felt before getting angry, rather than focusing on the emotion of anger itself. You should consider if they are angry because they are anxious, or because they are suffering, or because they are in trouble. When you tell someone, I understand how you feel, it is said to be effective to mean that you understand the painful or sad feelings they felt before getting angry, rather than understanding the feeling of anger itself. Also, It is said that anger is not generated instantaneously. In the thinking of anger management, the expression "gets angry like an instant hot water heater" is considered incorrect. People must always go through the following 3 steps to reach anger. 1. Encounter an event, example, a subordinate repeats the same mistake. 2. Attribute meaning, example, thinks, why are they making the same mistake? They must not be taking their work seriously. 3. The emotion of anger is generated. The key element in this process is the second step, attributing meaning. Even if you encounter the same event, whether or not the emotion of anger is generated is determined by what meaning you attribute to that event. For example, if you can attribute meaning to a subordinate's mistake by thinking, they are still inexperienced, so a mistake like this is probably unavoidable, or perhaps my explanation wasn't clear enough, the emotion of anger will not be generated. It's like having a filter or glasses in front of our eyes. If they are distorted, we cannot accept events straightforwardly, and feelings of irritation and discomfort arise. And the true identity of what distorts these glasses or filters is said to be the shoulds or should-nots that are our beliefs deep in our hearts. We feel anger when our own believed shoulds are betrayed. A boss who feels angry because a subordinate didn't submit an email by the deadline might have the belief, things instructed should be done by the deadline. Anger management ultimately aims for 2 states. One is to no longer regret the emotion of anger. Anger management does not consider being angry itself a problem. Instead of getting angry reflexively, the goal is to take responsibility for one's emotions, as in I decided to get angry and then I got angry. And the second is to be able to express the emotion of anger skillfully. Anger can be directed at others, oneself, or things, but with anger management skills, you can express I am angry skillfully without hurting people, blaming yourself, or hitting things. If you can express yourself well, it is said that even if you get angry, no one will suffer, and relationships will not be broken. What is important in learning anger management is first to know your own emotional habits and anger type. This book introduces a method to clarify in what form your anger is likely to appear and where your anger switches are located through an anger management diagnosis. It is said that there is no good or bad result in the diagnosis. It is important to accept your current state as it is. The diagnosis can reveal the tendencies and degree of factors such as the intensity, duration, frequency, aggressiveness of anger, and system, range of tolerance. For example, some people have very high anger intensity, or high duration who hold on to anger forever, or high frequency who get irritated frequently, or high aggressiveness who vent anger at others, themselves, or things, and those with narrow system, range of tolerance, meaning they cannot tolerate even minor things. There are various tendencies depending on the person. For each tendency, the book provides detailed explanations of its characteristics, methods for controlling anger oneself, and methods for getting along well with people who have such tendencies. Once you understand your own anger characteristics, you move on to actual training to control the emotion of anger. This book introduces a 21-day training to make anger management a habit. This is based on the idea that it takes about 3 weeks for a person to form a habit. The 21-day training has 3 types: things to do every day, things to do only on that day, and things to do if you have the capacity. The basics of what to do every day are keeping an anger log, anger diary, and practicing the 3 secrets. An anger log is a record of things that made you feel irritated or annoyed. By writing it down, you can visualize the content of your anger specifically, which helps you understand your anger tendencies. The key points are to write it down on the spot, not analyze it, and just record what happened as it is. The 3 secrets are 3 steps to take immediately when you feel annoyed. 1. Impulse control. Wait 6 seconds. The peak of anger is said to be around 6 seconds, so you devise ways to get through these 6 seconds. Techniques introduced include repeating a calming phrase in your mind, coping mantra, and scoring the temperature of your anger, scale technique. 2. Thought control. Draw 3 circles in your head. This is about thinking about your tolerance level for your shoulds. By clearly defining 3 levels within yourself: the range you absolutely cannot tolerate, 100 points, the range you can somewhat tolerate, the range you can consider with words like at least, at the very least, minimum, and the range you cannot tolerate, you can draw a line between what you should get angry about and what you shouldn't. 3. Action control. Find a fork in the road. You judge whether the problem you are currently angry about is something you can change yourself or something you cannot change, and whether its importance is high or low. This helps you organize whether it's a task to tackle immediately, something to think about when you have spare time, something you need to make an effort to accept, or something you need to make an effort to let go of, and you can see how to deal with the problem. Things to do only on that day include the Miracle Day exercise on day 1, visualize specifically an ideal day where anger management is successful and set a goal, the change log on day 1, write down concrete steps to bridge the gap between the ideal and reality, the 3-column technique on day 7, analyze the sholds that caused anger and reconstruct the sholds to be happier, and the Decalogue on day 14, recognize your sholds and evaluate their importance. And training you should do if you have the capacity includes break pattern in the first week, change your daily routine slightly to increase tolerance for change, 24-hour act calm in the second week, try to behave calmly for 24 hours regardless of your emotions, and play role in the third week, try acting as your ideal person. These trainings support the acquisition of anger management by increasing mental flexibility, letting you experience how changes in your own behavior affect those around you, and serving as practice for becoming the person you want to be. By continuing these trainings, we will be able to deal with problems in a more constructive way without being controlled by the emotion of anger. Anger management does not aim to stop getting angry at all. The goal is to become skilled at dealing with the emotion of anger, being able to get angry skillfully when necessary, and not having to get angry when unnecessary. The anger management concepts and specific trainings introduced in this book will surely be a great hint for changing how you deal with the emotion of anger in your daily life. By knowing your own emotional habits, understanding the mechanism of anger, and engaging in practical training, you will surely find life easier than before. Whether you are someone who easily feels anger or not, we hope this book becomes a wonderful opportunity to review how you deal with the emotion of anger. Why not pick up the book and start your own anger management journey? Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please subscribe to the channel and give it a high rating. See you in the next video. May your life be a better one.